In this book, it's 125, this edition. What we just did was an entire year's worth of work, okay? What we're going to do now is we're going to break it down into a single event so it matches the standards that we set. So if we used the exam as a standard, what was the food cost? Do you remember as a percentage? It was 19.86. If we're going to have another specialty event that's added, we want to make sure that we stay within those parameters. You remember what the concessions payroll was? 10%. So we want to stay within the 10% parameters. Support payroll, support personnel, what was the percent? 2. It was 2%, so we want to stay within the 2% parameters. So when we start doing the event planning, we're going to try to model that one event so that it matches what the overall budget is. In this particular case, when you look at, I guess, page 130, anytime you do a special event, you want to remember the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps are: 1, what's the purpose of this event? 2, do I have a plan? And 3, if I do this event, what's the payoff? So now that you've done a business model, wouldn't we want to look at a particular event and say, okay, does this make sense to do? So for example, there was a time in my career where they had a group called Promise Keepers. Anybody know what Promise Keepers is? You're probably too young. It was a group of men, sort of a retreat for evangelical folks to come together and build manhood. And so they had several named coaches, and they had preachers and ministers, and they would go from stadium to stadium to stadium. And they would bring in some 50,000 men, and they would have a religious retreat in the stadium with singing and prayer and motivational speeches and trying to get people to bring their character back into line. And so these things became huge. Now, it became apparent that they wanted to come to Memphis, Tennessee, and they wanted to use the Liberty Bowl. What do you think the first thing I would do as a director of the Liberty Bowl, food service director? Is this an event we want to do? You said yes. Okay.
Ask the customers.
You said yes?
Ask the customers.
Ask the customers.
Not ask the customers, but I mean, I guess if you have to do an evaluation of if you should or shouldn't do an event, you really would want a customer perspective first.
Maybe, yes. So you could look at what ticket sales are in advance. But Dallas sold 65,000 tickets to the Dallas event. Chicago sold 75,000 tickets. Atlanta sold 65,000 tickets to the event. It's a 3-day event. They start on Friday, they go Friday, Saturday, they conclude on Sunday evening. It's just something we want to do. Let's go back and look at equilibrium. What's the good part? Why would we want to do it? Why would we want to do this special event?
To make money.
To make money, yes. So what the first thing you'd say is, okay, so I've got 50,000 people coming 3 days. I don't know what the per capita is going to be yet, but it's probably going to be at least, I mean, what do 3 meals a day cost? $25? So it sure looks to me like there's a lot of money involved, right? So on the front end, yes, I want to do it. Okay? What else do I need to know? If I know the money, what else do I need to know?
Plan. Attendance.
Huh?
Attendance.
Attendance. I already know the attendance. It's 50,000 people for 3 days. I know the per capita is $20 per person. So I have 150,000 people times 20. I know what the revenue is. What's the next thing I have to figure out? I want to evaluate.
What's in it for you?
What's in it for me? Don't I want to know what it's going to cost? How am I going to put this event on? Do I have to hire more people to come in? Do I have to have specialty event? Do I have to have refrigeration? Do I have to have special dressing rooms for all the celebrities. So I have to look at the event and say, does this make sense to do? So that's what we want to do. We want to, one, what's the purpose? We want to make money. B, am I going to have a plan? Okay? And then what's the payoff? Sometimes the payoff isn't always just money. I work for Sports Service. We did Alpha Kappa Alpha 75th anniversary in Washington, D.C. when I was with Sports Service. It was the first meal where we served 8,000 people under the roof in one meal. First time 8,000 people ever been served at a sit-down dinner. Washington, D.C. Convention Center. Huge event, right? We lost money. Why would we do it? Why would Sports Service do something like that?
To gain recognition.
Gain recognition and prove to every other convention center we can do huge events. So that when we go bid the convention center in San Diego, we can put in our resume, we're the only ones in the world that served 8,000 people at one meal at one time. That make sense? So sometimes there are payoffs that are beyond just money. Okay. One, if you look at the event plan, it's going to be very similar to what we just did. It's just going to be in much smaller numbers. The first thing, you want to project the amount of sales. And we practice this. What's the first thing we need to know to project sales? Thank you. What's the second thing we want to know? Per capita. Very good. Okay. Now, after we figure out what the sales are going to be, we're going to need to know how many hot dogs we're going to have, how many cups of coffee we're going to need. Are there any special ancillary kind of things we need, like ice carvings or chocolate fountains or any of that? And so we're going to look at the specialty projects that go with that. What I passed out was the case history so we can practice. Right? So here we are. We're in Memphis, Tennessee. And as you know, baseball season is about to come about, right? Spring is coming. Most Major League Baseball teams are down in Florida and they're got what they call spring practice. Now the promoters at AutoZone Park here in Memphis have made arrangements with the New York Yankees. Anybody know who the New York Yankees are? Yeah, most famous baseball team in the world, right? They've made arrangements for the Yankees to come here and play one game. They're going to have a spring training game, right? So on your sheet, we have a case history. What's the event? New York Yankees spring training. What's the expected attendance? First thing we need to know.
10,000.
10,000 people are going to come. Okay, Yankees. Woohoo, Yankees. Okay, what kinds of things do we need to know about this particular event? We know the Yankees are coming. We know the attendance is going to be somewhere around 10,000. What would be some important facts to know about this particular event?
Aaron, can you use this bit?
Oh, pull it right better, you think? Show it better.
What was the question?
Pardon me?
What was the question?
What kind of things do we need to know about this event day?
Hot.
Pardon me?
Is it gonna be hot?
Is it going to be hot? So we need to know the weather. If it's hot, is that good or bad? Both?
What's the scheduled date?
What's the scheduled date?
Yeah.
And then to go along with that, also if it's a weekend or a weekday.
That's exactly right. So if it's on a Saturday, that would be better than a Wednesday night, wouldn't it? What else? Date is very good. What else do we need to know?
If there's any other events?
Are there conflicts with that particular
surrounding
schedule?
Holidays.
Huh?
Yes.
Surrounding holidays?
Are there holidays? But I'm back to this. I now know the date. Let's just say it's Saturday. What do I need to know? What's another helpful fact in planning? There you go. Location. So we know it's AutoZone Park, downtown. Does AutoZone Park hold 10,000 people?
I don't know, maybe.
Yes, it does. So that we know we got this covered. We're good with that. What else do we need to know? It's on a Saturday. What would it be important for us to know on a Saturday? How about the time? Is it in the afternoon or at night? So you said it's hot.
Yeah.
But if it starts at 7 o'clock at night, it's a lot cooler than it would be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In college sports, there is a correlation to start time and per capita. So for example, if you go to an SEC game and you're down at Auburn University and they play on ESPN at 11 o'clock in the morning, they're going to have 85,000 people. But what happens at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Time.
They've been tailgating, right? And they've had their breakfast, and now the game starts at 11. Are they going to be hungry? You're going through the lunch period, right? So at halftime, you know you should sell a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers and french fries and food because you're feeding them lunch. What if the game starts at 2:30 in the afternoon? What do you know?
Need more snacks.
That's right. So they've been in the parking lot, they've been partying, right? And they're eating their free food, and they come in and they'll have some sodas and popcorn and some snacks, but they might not order the heavier items. The game starts at 6 at night.
More dinner.
We were getting closer to dinner, so they've been in there and they've eaten all the food and their stuff, and now they're going to come and they're going to eat it. What if it starts at 9 o'clock at night? Sales typically would go down a little bit, okay, because they've been partying all day and maybe even liquored up. I mean, I don't know, but it's possible. That's the people at LSU. So time is very, very important. So now you're starting to get this, the parameters. So we're going to say it's going to be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So now we know we have a Saturday. We know the weather is going to be, according to Kevin, it's going to be hot. What is hot to you?
Anything above 95? I guess?
Anything above 90? How many, just thinking in terms of spring training game, we didn't necessarily put down a date, but I'm going to say April 1st, and that's a Sunday. So let's do April 8th, okay?
Gonna be cool weather.
Yeah, it's not going to be too warm. So when he says hot, it's probably going to be 80 degrees. It's not going to be 95. Okay? So we're going to project 80 degrees. Okay? These are the parameters that you have to have here in general information. Now we're going to project a per cap of $7. All right, Marley. You said you and Caroline say you feel much better about doing this math now. What are our expected sales? What are our expected sales?
70,000,
70,000. How did you get that?
just multiply it by.
You multiplied the attendance times the per cap. So sales are going to be 70,000. Now, for the event, I want to start thinking about certain things. Okay? So if I'm going to make $70,000, I got to sell some food, right? And I have to have some people come and work. So what I need to know is how many hot dogs do I need? How many large drinks do I need? Am I going to be selling beer? How many people should be working at this particular event? Right? So let's look at the case history and run down that. And we're going to, for all intents and purposes, do the same thing here that we just did with like Form B. This is Form A. We've already done Form A. There's only one event. Okay, so in the hot dog sausage category, we know that hot dogs are going to be about 20% of our sales. Right? We know that cold soda is going to be 25% of our sales. Draft beer is going to be 27% of our sales. Popcorn is 2% of our sales. Coffee 2%, peanuts 1%, ice cream is going to be 0.5%, candy 0.5%, other foods such as pretzels and nachos 12%. So, if my total sales are 70,000, Let's do hot dogs. How much, what sales are going to be produced by selling hot dogs? How would I figure that number?
Are we adding all the variations of the hot dog?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're going to do that
So just
next
20%
week.
of the,
That's right. So
Of
what's
70,000.
20% of 70,000?
Wait, where, you said the 70,000 comes from the total sales?
yes. And
So we know that our total sales, okay, are 70,000. You told me that attendance at 10 times the per capita at 7 equals 70,000. I agree with you. Now the case history tells us that hot dogs represent 20% of the total sales. So I would take 70,000 times 20%
14.
14.
equals $14,000. Now it's going to get a little more complicated. Now we have 3 different types of hot dogs we're going to sell. We're going to sell regular hot dogs that are 6-to-1. What does 6-to-1 mean? Ooh, ooh,
6 to
ooh.
1.
For every one hot dog we sell?
6 hot dogs to 1 pound.
That's right. Good. See, we talked about that in the back of the room. So 6/1 equals there are 6 hot dogs to the pound. Then we're going to sell a giant hot dog. It's 4-to-1. What does that mean?
4 hot dogs to 1 pound.
That's correct. And then the sausage is 5-to-1. So we have 3 different categories, okay? We've got a 6-to-1, we've got a 4-to-1, and we've got a 5-to-1. Now we're just going to concentrate on hot dog sales. The 6-to-1 represents what percentage of the sales? So we're going to take 14,000 times 70%. What is that number?
9,800.
$9,800 are going to be earned at this event by selling regular hot dogs. Now we got 4-to-1 hot dogs, and what are they, 20%?
No,
So what-
15, I'm sorry. 15.
Pardon me?
15%.
15, right here?
Yep.
That's correct, sorry. So what's 15% of the total sales?
2,100.
2,100. Thank you. And then 5-to-1 times 15% better be 2,100. How do I check my math? So does this equal 14,000? So 14,000 means I did it correct. All right. Now we know how much money is going to be produced by selling hot dogs. Now we know the categories and what they're going to earn in each kind of size. But now I'm the manager. I got to order hot dogs for this event. So how many 6-to-1 hot dogs should I order?
That's when you would do 9,800 divided by 250.
That's exactly right. Everybody see that? See, we got $9,800, okay? If we divide it by the sales price, it'll tell us how many hot dogs we sold. And what's that number?
You divide it, you said?
Yeah. So I got $9,800 in sales. I need to know, how many hot dogs did it take to get to $9,800?
3,920.
3,920 is correct.
So that's the total pounds.
No, not pounds.
That's the total number.
Units, okay? I need, if you take, let's imagine we got all these concession stands in the stadium, okay? And we're selling hot dogs, and in one place I'm selling 200 hot dogs, another place 300 hot dogs, another place I'm gonna sell 500 hot dogs, another place sells 100 hot dogs. Okay? After I get finished selling all the hot dogs, I'm gonna get $9,800, okay? Now, how do I figure out how many hot dogs I sold? Well, if I'm selling them at $2.50 a piece, I can take the total sales divided by the unit price, and that will tell me how many hot dogs I sold.
So once-
Or if I want to make $70,000 at this event, I need to get, and these numbers are true, which we experimented with all our other games, we know we need $3,920, hot dogs. Excuse me. What if I only ordered 3,000 hot dogs?
you'd be short.
I would be short? What would happen to the sales? I wouldn't make my 70,000, would I? Because I only have 3,000 hot dogs. So now I'm going to give you another math question, since you guys seem to like math so much. That was being facetious. The hot dogs are sold in 10-pound cases. 10-pound case. How many cases of hot dogs should I order?
Hold on.
392.
392. You want to tell everybody how you got that?
Just divided by 10.
No,
Wait, whatever.
no, that's not right. How many hot dogs in a case?
6.
Nope.
12.
6 times 10, so it'd be 60 hot dogs total
Per case.
per case.
So the question is, how many cases? Divide this by 60. And that tells you how many cases.
Well, there's 653 hot dogs per pound.
No, there's not 653 cases per pound.
No, hot dogs.
There's 6 hot dogs per pound.
Right.
It's gonna be.
Wait, okay.
65 cases.
Hold on, wait.
Well, it's
That's right, 65 cases.
65.3 cases.
What?
0.3
Yeah.
cases.
Did you follow? I would tell you this, that probably on the test, we're not going to get into the cases thing. I'm just trying to walk you one step further so that you'll think the rest of this stuff is easy.
So we stop at 3,920.
Yes,
That's the amount of hot dogs you need.
yes.
Okay.
You're going to have the same forms, okay? Very similar forms to what you had on the last exam, except it's going to be much smaller, much more concise, and it's not going to take you near as long. You have to understand the process. How did we get to 70,000? Attendance times per cap. How did we get the total hot dog sales? They told us there that 20% of the total was 14,000. Okay? Now we realize that hot dogs come in 3 different categories or sizes. So we have 6-to-1s, 4-to-1s, and 5-to-1s. And 6-to-1s are 70% of this business, and 4-to-1s is 15%, and 5-to-1s is 15%. But we sell them at different prices. What do we sell the 4-to-1 for?
$3.50.
$3.50. You know what my next question is, right?
$4.
Huh? No. So how many of these hot dogs do I need to order?
600.
600 even?
Yes.
If I said, how many cases do I need? What would you say?
Still the same number?
Nope.
No, I mean, it's
Remember this? And where did we get the 60?
from the 6-to-1 ratio.
Yes, there's 60 to the case, right?
So there's 40 in it.
That's right. So we would take this number, divide by 40. How many cases do we need?
15.
15?
Yes.
This was 65 something.
Point.
Okay, be careful here. Typically, when you round, you would round up or down. In this particular case, we needed 65.3. How many cases would you order?
66.
66, because you want to have at least enough.
Yeah.
And if you have 66 and it's busy, you can actually sell a few more hot dogs rather than be short. All right? Who wants to be the helper here, the teacher's pet? What's the next question we ask, Jessica?
How much do you sell the drive for?
That's right, and you told me it was $4? What's the next thing we do?
Or multiply that.
No, you said it right.
Divide that $4.
Yeah. So we take 2,100 divided by 4. What's that number?
300.
300? Okay, and how many cases do I need? No? It's 5 to 1.
5 to 1, okay.
So how many is it?
50,
50 in a case.
so 6.
Is it 6? I need 6 cases.
Wait.
Now, here's another interesting, can you see?
No, I got a different number. I got 525 instead of 300.
Yeah, that seems wrong. So take this number here divided by 4. It should be 500 and something. 525?
Yeah.
Oh, I did it divided, I did 1,200.
Yeah, 525. Okay.
Okay. And then divide that by 50, and it should be like
10.5.
10.5. Well, what would we order?
11.
We'd order 11. That's right. So do you have this? Do you have this figured out? It's okay?
Right here, right now, but when we go home, it'll be something different.
That's right, because you're not gonna think about this for another 6 days. Then
Not
you're
if
gonna
you
come
take
back
the
and you're gonna.
notes.
Actually, no, it'll be 2 weeks because we're on vacation.
That's right, you're on
Spring break.
vacation. Yeah.
That's why you should take good notes, so you can use it as a reference.
Even with that.
All right.
Well, then you just have problems. I'm just kidding.
Okay, do we need a break? Okay, you get 5 minutes. Come back at 11:35, please.